live at the same time. You should figure that out. I'll have Lewis.
I didn't see it, but maybe next time.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ramin, and we're going to be talking to Lawrence Gillen today. We're going to be joined by Louis Renteria in a second. NAR Lawsuit, man. It's crazy. How you doing, Lawrence?
Fantastic. And you, sir?
I am doing excellent. It's the middle of the week, and this week has just been jamming since Monday. Yes. Lots of stuff happening on the NAR lawsuit front, right? So we talked about it last time with Sandy, and a lot of new changes for you guys as realtors. Not too many stuff, not too much on our plates, a lot on your plate. And I'm sure you're getting questions from your buyers about what to do, what not to do. So how's it affected you so far since Monday? We had something big happen on Monday.
Yes, our local MLS here, which is MLS Listings Inc., had discontinued the display of any buyer agent compensation, which in California was actually paid by a listing broker. So the broker would negotiate a commission with the seller, and then the agreement would be that the listing broker would share part of their commission with a cooperating broker or a buyer's broker. So that now is off the table as far as displaying what any type of compensation is to a buyer's broker.
All right. So how does this affect you? I mean, so before you used to put in the private remarks section, this home is 2.5% commission paid by the seller. How are you guys doing it now?
There was a special field for it. Actually, it wasn't in the private remarks, but there was a special field that would show that. And over the last couple of years, even Redfin was starting to show what it was. I don't know if Zillow ever jumped on board or whatever, but that is now gone. So now what you have to do is just look for any other way that they may be advertising it besides the MLS. So some companies have their own websites where they'll have their listings on there. They could post whatever type of compensation might be offered by a seller on their website, or they could put it anywhere. Basically, you just cannot have it on the MLS. That's the only place you cannot have it.
Because that's collusion, right? I'm colluding with Lawrence to fix the price of this house and charge somebody some more money than I would normally, right? Is that what the premise is, basically?
Well, that's what they're making it seem to be, which California really had the system down. They had a good working system. The only thing that would negatively affect me is sometimes some agents would only offer a buyer's agent maybe less than what you were hoping to get or what you would normally work for. And because you couldn't really disrupt the waters on the buyer's offer for that property, you couldn't separately negotiate having the seller pay you more because you wanted more, for example. You just do what's best for your buyer client and just take less than what you would normally want to get. So now that is not going to happen to me unless I choose it to happen, right? Sure. I'm going to set my terms with a buyer, have them sign the buyer broker agreement, and I will put in that agreement what I'm looking for compensation wise, and then they can therefore shop around. I would have to, as their agent, maybe call around different real estate companies that have listings and find out, is the seller willing to cooperate and pay perhaps a buyer's compensation if they receive an acceptable offer, and do a lot. It's going to be a lot more homework for sure for agents. But that's what we're going to have to do. And basically we would just present all the information to a buyer, because you can't pre-select for your buyer. Okay. We can't filter out only ones that are going to pay that. We have to submit any homes that my buyer might be interested in and have them choose. Okay. Well, they can choose for them. They can choose for themselves if they want to see a house where, for example, a seller might not be contributing to a buyer's agent's compensation. They can choose for themselves. I can't pre-choose for them. I got to send them everything that works for them and their house criteria without the consideration for compensation, and they can choose themselves from that point on.
Lawrence, Do you think a lot of that was going on previously? Like when I was looking at the MLS, maybe I'm looking at only the houses that are going to pay me 3% commission, and I'm only going to show you the three houses that showed up as 3% commission instead of showing the 5 houses that showed up with 3 and 2.5%. Was that happening? Do you think?
If it did happen, I think I would venture to guess it probably did happen, but I think that number was on a small level. I don't think the average agent did that. I know I half the time don't know when I'm getting paid till escrow's closing, and then I'm looking at the numbers. I don't focus on that myself. I focus on getting my client the house that's going to work best for them. I tell you, I've walked away with some pretty small paychecks.
Yeah.
And by the time I pay the taxes and everything on it, it's
your insurance.
I think I actually have paid. I've paid to do deals before.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, that's not likely going to happen anymore.
Interesting.
I'll call my own shot.
And so you guys are BRG, so you guys have been pushing out the BR, buyers representative brokers agreement, BRBA, right? You guys have been pushing that out for about a couple of weeks now. I know that Keller Williams had made that kind of a mandatory thing for the past 2 or 3 months. How are you handling that? Is that something that's coming up at all in your meetings with folks?
Well, you're not going to have a choice now, because once August 17th comes into play, which that's the current drop dead date for this to take effect, in order to even show a house, right? Yeah, and in order to even show a house 3 days from now, if you want to show a house to a client, you cannot do it unless they've signed the buyer broker compensation form, BRBC.
Buyer broker BBCA compensation agreement. Yeah, there you go.
BRBC
names.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're, previous I was helping, I've helped out a lot of people with open houses, and I go to them quite a bit, almost every weekend. People that, you ask to sign in, they're like, I'd rather not give my information anymore. That's going to change now, because I have to know whether you're being represented by somebody or not when you walk into the house. Otherwise, I shouldn't have a conversation with you. As a realtor, I've got a responsibility not to share material information with you, right?
Yeah. So technically, you're holding an open house. You are representing the seller. And when a person comes in to view the property, they are supposed to sign in. Okay, no legal law requiring them to do so, but there's ways you would need to respond if they don't sign in. If they don't sign in, all you can tell them is what is advertised about that particular home, bedrooms, bathrooms, whatever's on flyers, basically that type of thing, or what might be on an MLS or a third-party website like Zillow or Redfin. You can't get into really any other details than that. If they sign in and say they are represented by another agent, then it's kind of hands off. You can still talk general information to them, and they can choose maybe at that point, if they are not represented by another agent, that they are wanting to possibly just be unrepresented. That's one way. Okay, so you can talk to them basically, but they have to know that anything they say could be conveyed back to a seller, because they're not represented by you. You're simply working for the seller.
Right.
So anything they say can be conveyed over. So now, if they decide they want you to represent them, then there's a couple different levels on ways they can do that. They can sign on to they could sign a document with you that will allow you to show them that house and maybe 2 others. So there's only 3 properties on that particular one. Or if they want you to be a full representative for buying any house in a certain area or meeting whatever criteria they want, and they want you to represent them they want you to be their agent, then they can sign the BRBC, the buyer's representation and broker compensation form. And then you can select it by region or zip codes or types of properties. There's many different ways you can dissect that, how you can represent them.
I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. I got a question for you. Nikki Heyman just popped in and is asking, do you think, let's see if it comes up here, Do you believe that many buyers will try to reach out directly to the listing agent themselves? Do you think? And now, since I'm the listing agent, I'm going to double end this deal, right?
I myself do believe that's going to happen.
Okay.
So there's two ways that a buyer could engage. They could say, hey, I want to make an offer on this house, but I don't want to pay you anything. Then you would be basically representing the seller, but still doing the paperwork with the buyer being unrepresented. So in that case, I would not give them any guidance whatsoever. It would just be, here's the paperwork, fill it out. And
Really?
yeah, and you can't give them any guidance because they're not being represented by you.
Okay.
Or they could say, okay, and sticking to that point, okay, when you're taking the listing, you would negotiate with the seller. If I end up representing I'm sorry, not representing, if I end up doing a transaction where I'm representing you only and a buyer is unrepresented, then I might want to be compensated a little bit more because now I'm taking on a lot more paperwork. Though the target's not going to be so big because my liability won't be quite that big because I'm not representing the buyer. So you might want to negotiate some percentage amount or whatever dollar amount where you'll be compensated for that. Now, if they want you to actually represent them and the seller both, then you need to make sure they both understand that you are doing that. And the buyer would have to sign the buyer representation broker compensation document, the BRBC form. And then you would have to negotiate with them what you want to be paid for writing the offer on this property. And once again, everybody has to know what's going on. And yes, I do think double ending deals is going to be on the increase. I really think that it would be in everybody's best interest if they disallow people from double ending transactions.
So let's step back for a second. So
right now it's legal.
There's a broker and then there's an agent, right? When you're an agent, real estate agent, or a realtor, first of all, a realtor just means I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors, and that's all it means. Okay.
That's not all it means, but go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, hit me. What else does it mean?
It means that you are actually bound to a higher code of ethics than just a regular agent. You are promising you are going to go above and beyond, right? To make sure you are handling everything properly, ethically, honestly, all that stuff.
Okay. So it's like a code of ethics, right?
Yeah. So that's really the true benefit of being a realtor is you are promising to act in such a fashion.
So as a realtor, I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors, and I've ascribed to this higher ethical standard than other real estate agents are. Correct. Now, as a broker, I own the company, or I assume all the risks. I am representing you. I'm becoming an agent of your transaction, essentially. And you guys are agents, and you guys are coming in and saying, hey, I work for this broker, and I am representing his interests in this transaction, correct? Is that kind of the right way of thinking here?
What happens when you sign any agreement with a buyer or a seller, whether it's a listing agreement or some type of buyer representation agreement, you're actually signing on behalf of the broker. The broker is the true agent of that client, and we are more like a sub-agent. So if I've created that relationship with a buyer, for example, and another agent at my same brokerage, let's say I go on vacation and they need to step in and pick up the ball and continue things, they can do that because they're still working for the same broker, and the broker is the true agent for that client.
Now, and dual agency, what that means is, first of all, if I'm listing a house, my true heart is in getting the most amount of money for this home, doing the most amount of good I can for the seller. Okay. And if I'm representing this side of the equation, I'm trying to do the best I can for Lewis and making sure that he gets the best deal he can, paying the lowest price and getting the best house for his money. All right. But now, if I'm representing both Lawrence and Lewis, what does that mean? How do I do that as as a and let's define some things. Fiduciary responsibility. For those that don't know, fiduciary means having to deal with money. So how can I represent both your fiduciary responsibility and Lewis's fiduciary responsibility? How do I do that as a dual agent?
There are some people that say you can't do that.
Can't.
Okay.
You plain cannot do that, because how are you going to do that?
That's the defense attorney.
My thought process is, I'm sorry.
I was
just to finish that thought, my thought process is that it is, as long as everybody knows everything as much as possible, right? There are certain things that that a seller might tell me I can't convey to a buyer, which is fine, because if I was representing that buyer, I wouldn't know that anyway. I only know it because the seller told me, because I'm their fiduciary.
Exactly,
so,
right.
When it comes down to it, I think it can be handled by somebody who is truly open and honest and keeping an even playing field. And when it comes down to price, it is really the seller who's going to choose what price they get. And it is the buyer who's going to choose how much they're willing to pay. I can't choose for them. Okay.
Well, let me ask you this.
But there are certain influences you can have.
Lewis told me he's willing to take $1,300,000 for the house, and you're offering 1.2. Do I tell you that Lewis wants 1.3, or do I tell you that 1.2 is going to work, or I tell Lewis that 1.2 is the maximum Lawrence can go, and there's no way he's going to get any more? How do I fall in the middle of this, right? As dual agent, right? And sometimes I've seen some brokers, they'll give the deal, you'll take half the deal, Lawrence, and he'll give it to somebody else at BRG, and they say, hey, please handle the rest of this paperwork on the buyer side, so you can truly represent the buyer, correct? So they'll divide that agency relationship essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you're in that type of dual agency situation, and I was actually put to the test one time, where the buyer wanted to know what was the seller's bottom line. And I said, I'm not authorized to give you that information. I only know that because I'm representing the seller. But I told this buyer client, if I were any other agent representing you, I wouldn't know that number anyway. They wouldn't be able to tell you because they don't know. Right now, I'm in front of you. I want you to get this house. I'm saying make your highest and best offer, but I cannot, because I'm not authorized to by the seller, tell you what that bottom line number is. And this guy made his offer. It was much less than the seller wanted, so the seller counter offered. And then when I went back to him, he said, well, what will they take? I said, well, you know they'll take this because they counter offered at that, but I don't want to pay that. Okay, what do you want to pay? Make your highest and best. So this went back and forth 3 times.
Wow.
And he was just getting so upset because I wouldn't tell him. And but yet he made his third offer, and the seller got so upset that she actually counter offered higher than the original asking price.
And we can do that, right?
She can do that, yeah. And she did, and he went ballistic. She can't do that. I said, oh, she can. I said, I told you, I can't tell you what that number is, but she's given you 3 different counter offers. 3 different numbers she can take. She will pay the highest one. And he wanted to come in only $2,000 less than that. And I could not, this is where I could have not ethically said, hey, look, just raise it 2 more thousand and you got the deal, right? And put it together. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I would be only looking after my own best interest at that point, not his and not hers.
Right.
I had to let him make his decision on what the max is he's willing to pay.
Sure.
And he didn't want to step up that by himself. He kind of had hints, but he wasn't biting, and I'm not going to tell him. So that deal fell apart. Another buyer came along, paid much higher than what he was offering, and we put it together, and they were happy, and he went off and found something else, I guess. I don't know, never heard back from him. But so I felt I was truly put to the test on that, and that's probably as close as you can get on keeping everything above board and ethical. But it's a tough thing to do. A lot of people, they're going to see the dollar signs on, man, that's an extra X number of percent I can put in my pocket. And they would have just spilled the beans on, you're only $2,000 away.
That's a big question.
But I couldn't do that.
We've been talking about, Nikki just asked a question. She says, do you think buyers are going to try to reach out directly to the listing agents? And this is Nikki Heyman from LinkedIn. So Lawrence thinks that's going to happen quite a bit, actually. Any thoughts on that?
I have thoughts on that. I mean, it's like the prosecution representing the the
Right?
defendant.
Yeah, public
Like
defender.
it
Actually,
just
public defender who
doesn't
works for the prosecution.
it just doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
right? You need a buyer's agent in your corner to fight for you, to make sure that everything is legit. And still things are missed even with your own buyer in your corner, a buyer's agent in your corner. Now, let alone if you're using the listing agent's agent or the seller's agent, forget about it.
Yeah.
So, Nikki, to kind of put an exclamation point on this question, honestly, I truly believe, and I think Luis also believes, that you should probably have somebody in your corner who's gonna, pat you down and let you know what's up and guide you in the right direction and help you negotiate that better price. And honestly, so in here, California, where we're at, Bay Area, we're at what, like a $1.5 million house would get you a decent home here. $2 million probably is more the line. And I think we just had a new article today that came out and said San Mateo and Santa Clara County have hit the median home price of $2 million. So using that 3% commission ratio on a $2 million house, we're paying what, $60,000 on $2 million, right? As a commission to the buyer's agent. I don't know, even at 2.5%, $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000. I think it's kind of worth it if I can get maybe $100,000 off the price of the house, or if I can get a little bit of bigger house for the bang of the buck, right? So I think it's kind of worth it to pay that commission, to be honest with you. And I think it goes right back to the court example, right? I'd hate to be represented by the county prosecutor's buddy who's in his corner, right, trying to railroad me. Take the deal. No, I don't think I should take the deal, right?
Mm-hmm. What if there's something wrong with that roof or the foundation and the inspectors missed it, but the buyer's agent would have caught it?
Yep.
And that cost you that's going to cost you $300,000 to repair, especially if it's especially like in Los Gatos, if it's up in the hills or something and there's foundational issues. Oof, it gets pretty wild.
Willow Glen is full of foundation issues. All of Willow Glen is riddled with those.
Right. So now, you saved on the buyer's agent commission, but now you have, a year later, you're like, oh shoot, how much? 150,000? What? I didn't know about this.
Right.
Then what?
And again, I think Lawrence is also going to kind of paint the picture of the professional versus the amateur, right? So it's going to be the guy who comes in with a lab coat and not the jeans and a t-shirt saying, hey, I just got my driver's license and here I am as a realtor helping you out.
Did you say driver's license?
Yeah, right. Basically, right. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I've seen people who are saying this is going to be so easy. I'm just going to negotiate my own deal. And, this is going to be like that divorce online. What is that? The place you go to get those forms, a legal Zoom or something
Legal
like that?
Zoom, yeah.
Get your divorce done online, but then you're going to get, we're gonna part amicably. I haven't seen that happen one time in divorce. So yeah,
or
I don't think so.
Or what about the trust? Oh, let me start. It's $250, online, all automated. So I'm going to set up a trust and then it works, right? Until it needs to be put to the test.
Absolutely.
And then what?
Nikki says 100% agree that buyers should have their own representation. The concern is that buyers might make different choices to save $1. And again, Nikki, I think this comes back to the whole lawyer concept, or actually, hell, take it one step higher. Let's go to the cardiologist. So you're going to a regular doctor. He's like, I want you to see a cardiologist. I'm like, I don't want to pay for a cardiologist. I don't want to get that exam. I'm not interested. Okay, well then I'll see you in the emergency room 5-6 days later. So it's the same thing with real estate. I would imagine it's the same thing, right? I want to see a cardiologist, damn it. Okay.
I see that.
Right. So thanks for the comment, Nikki. I got something else, Lou, you might want to hit on. I got Ocean who's asking us, does this mean I, as a buyer, can work with different agents based on different listings, not considering the ethics in this picture? So I think that Lawrence just kicked off. He's going to come back on, but I think you can. So you can say, I want to see 300 Broadway with Luis, and I want to see 1, 2, 3, 4 anywhere with Ramin, and Ramin can make me an offer for this house, and Luis can make me an offer for that house.
Mm-hmm.
what's really scary is that I think these open house situations where you already signed with Luis as a buyer's representative, and you came to my open house, and now all of a sudden you're talking to me about material facts, and you're like, hey, why don't you write the contract for me? Well, I'll have you sign one of those BRBCs again as well with me, and then Luis is owed the commission on that house, and so am I, and that's going to be some sticky situations, right? I think that's going to call into play a lot of people's willingness to negotiate on these things. That's going to be interesting. And I've heard, Luis, I don't know if you heard the same thing, but that the DOJ has attorneys, and there's a lot of ambulance chasers. Can I get that sound from the ambulance chaser thing? I heard a lot of ambulance chasers. There you go. Those guys are going to be just waiting in the wings, just ready to pounce on somebody as soon as they make a small mistake. So that's kind of a little freaky to me in the mid interim. We'll see what happens with that. Lawrence, you died for a second. Did you see what Ojan Menashe's posted here? Do you see the chat?
Yes.
So can you answer that from a realtor perspective, please?
Certainly.
Since you're a member of NAR.
Yeah, there's different types of buyers brokerage, buyer representation and broker compensation agreements out there, and there's two different forms, and one of them you can be either exclusive or non-exclusive. If you plan on working with more than one agent, and whatever the reason is for that, then you might want to consider making sure that the exclusive box is not, I think it's an exclusive box. I got to get more familiar with the form, but there's a way to make it so it is either exclusive or non-exclusive. So if it is non-exclusive, then you could basically work with different agents and sign different buyer broker agreements. Or you could do, for example, if you say you want to work with just one agent in this one zip code, but another agent elsewhere, then you could be exclusively with that one agent for just the zip code. It has to state it in the agreement, but you can do that. And you can work with agents in different areas. You could have an agent looking for simply fourplexes, and then another agent looking for single family homes. I mean, there's many ways you can slice and dice it. So yes, you're not necessarily married to one agent unless they make it exclusive, which for me, I don't see a reason why I wouldn't want to be exclusive. I would rather not be non-exclusive. If I'm going to work on behalf of a buyer, I want to make sure that I'm going to get rewarded for the effort I'm putting in. But yet at the same token, if they're saying, okay, I want you to help me if I'm buying in Santa Clara County, but I'm also thinking about buying up in Sacramento, well, I don't necessarily specialize in Sacramento. Maybe that wouldn't be the best thing for you to have me represent you up there. So you could have a different agent representation agreement signed for somebody up in that area. So however you want to slice and dice it, it can be done. And jumping back on where I disappeared earlier, just to say, I also think that it is best for a buyer and seller to each have their own agents represent them. That's the cleanest deal. Make sure that to minimize, to me, I'm not just a real estate agent. I'm a loss mitigator. My job is to try to make sure we get through this transaction as cleanly, smoothly, effectively as possible, with hopefully not having to go to court over anything. So that's that's my real goal. Try to keep it clean and good.
The impetus is to stay out of court, right? I guess. There you go.
Yeah, nobody wants to go there.
Hey, Lawrence, you got to keep it clean, as in.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Ojan has another question. Actually, he's asking, "Isn't this creating room for more chaotic process?"
Yes, I can answer that one. 100%. Yes.
All right, Lou, talk to this, man. Talk to this.
That was it. That was the answer.
That's it.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
No, you're on the spotlight, bro. So what does this mean? Why is this all happening? So you know where the law started, right?
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let me back up. Let's just talk about the Hispanic community that, they don't really understand the contracts, even if they're written in Spanish. Heck, even people that speak English and read English, sometimes that lingo, that legal jargon is so complicated that you don't even know what you're signing. Now you got the underserved community that they're going to be the victims. They're going to be the ones really exposed to all this stuff. So yeah, you want this house? Yeah, I'll get it for you. They don't know any better, and they'll go with the listing agent. The listing agent will double in and do whatever. I mean, freaking, they won't even get inspections sometimes, and that underserved community, they tend not to know how to get legal advice and legal help. So yeah, it's going to create more chaos there.
Lawrence, what's your take on this?
The thing about this new form is the fact that it can only go up to 3 months, right? 90 days max.
Okay.
And that's it. So you're not going to be married forever if you do get married to an agent. I'm think I'm losing you again, right?
No, you're here. You're here.
Okay.
If you can't get a buyer into contract within 2 to 3 months, yeah, you got to move on.
I also think that this is a kind of a step back in time, right? So just for those who aren't aware, so we got two audiences here. One is the realtor community that we're talking to right now, and also the other one is the consumer community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you as a consumer, I would heed advice on what Lawrence is saying. You know, get representation on your own, get your own attorney, and have them come in and view the paperwork and do their due diligence and figure out what the right deal is, right? For the realtor side of things, I think that this is going to create some kind of a jolt to the marketplace, right? There's going to be people that just were in here for a part-time basis and maybe doing other things at the same time that weren't 100% inside the game, essentially, right? It's going to show that person, that person's qualifications, and the more professional person is, the more that's going to show brightly in this situation. I think with this new lawsuit, where it came from, and where it came from was, I think it was Missouri, right? If I'm not mistaken, Lawrence,
Right.
started in Missouri. So some people bought a home and they thought that the seller and the listing agent and the buying agent were colluding together and saying, hey, let's charge them, $30,000 more for the house. Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, that's a good idea. We can get, however much commission that is. And by the way, just to give you some idea on that, $100,000 in our area on a 3%, you're talking about $3,000. Okay, and for somebody that's willing to blow the game for $3,000 extra on a commission check, I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that person for that, to jack up or to lose your $100,000 for that $3,000 they're going to gain on that. So I don't think that's the person you should be working with in the first place. But I think that this again puts us back in time. In the the good old days, we used to have to call people. I'd be like, hey, Lawrence, do you have any listings available? What's your listing look like? I got 5 new houses we listed this week with BRG or whatever it is, right? And you'd send me a fax or something like that.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but my screen's freezing up.
Okay. No, we can hear you. You're still good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So you used to be faxing.
I think I'm going to try a different room.
Okay, no worries. We'll come back to you in a second. So yeah, so I would think that the fax thing is going to come back. Of course, faxes aren't a real thing anymore, but I think the email blasts are going to come back and say, hey, from Keller Williams, I got 6 homes that we listed this week on this, from our brokerage, and Compass is going to say, hey, we got 5 new homes, and here it is, and here's the details are. So I think it's going to be more belly to belly relationship building than previously, right? What do you think, Louis?
You like that belly to belly, huh?
I like the belly. I'm a fat guy, bro. So
Yep. And you said fax machine. I'm surprised you didn't say dot matrix or carbon copy.
That would take a little bit longer to communicate, man. So yeah.
Hey,
but I think it's going to create.
Do you remember that though? The dot matrix?
Dude, I used to live in a library at Cal State, and all we had to have was dot matrix and Apple IIe computers. So yeah, I remember that. And the paper gets stuck and goes crooked. that really sucks.
Okay, so there's 2 perspectives here, and another perspective is some agents are like, yeah, business as usual, like nothing's really changed very much. So God, it's all over the place. Like some agents that were already using the buyer broker agreement have told me, like I've talked to them because I've been trying to stay close to this,
right.
And they're like, nothing changed, business as usual. What are you talking about? So I think we're getting both.
And
boat.
Lou, next week we got Mark Messimer, who is the president of MLS listings in this area. So he's going to come on and hang out with us a little bit and talk about this. Actually, Joel is, I think, trying to come on too, but
Oh, sweet.
something's up with the system. Just tell him his device is not connected. Lawrence, are you ready to kick back on here? I'm gonna put you on stage here again. So I think that's going to be an interesting conversation next week to have with Joel, and also I've got a couple other experts who I want to bring on next week to talk about this as well, just to get different perspectives. But I think, again, Lou, the guys that are top of the game are going to be no problem. This is nothing. We used to do this in the past, and so here it is, right?
Yeah. Oh, did you say Joel was trying to sign on?
Joel is on the stage. What's up, Joel? How you doing, brother? Welcome.
What's up, Joel?
Hello. How are you guys doing?
Everybody give it up for Joel Stieber.
Joel, introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Joel Stieber. I work for Keller Williams here in Los Gatos, Greater San Jose area. I work with Luis quite a bit on some deals, so good to see a familiar face. And I live here in the Cambrian area of San Jose, and just servicing this whole area.
Yeah.
Nice.
Party on. Let's see. Where's
the NAR lawsuit thing that's happening? So there you go. Welcome. Hey, you didn't do that for me, Lou. I'm kind of pissed now.
Yeah. Well, I just figured it out. So
there you go. All right, cool. Well, welcome, Joel. And I don't know if you know Lawrence. Lawrence is a BRG. He's also local here and lives down the street from me. And he plays drums, and we jam every now and then. So,
he's been freezing a little bit, but he's cool.
It's all good. So,
Good to meet you, Joel.
Joel, we've been talking about the NAR lawsuit, and then what just happened recently on Monday was our local MLS has kicked out the commission portion of this thing. And so just wanted to get some perspective from you regarding this as well.
Yeah, so all our forms have completely changed. The listing agreement, the purchase agreement. It's not the best news for buyers, I'd say. You're going to have to negotiate not only your purchase of the house, but also now your agent's commission will be negotiable at that point when it comes to the table. I sat down with two sellers over the last few days. We're going to sign a listing agreement, and told them, listen, and the listing agreement only says 2.5 or whatever percentage you want to put in there for your side. I know you can't discuss compensations.
Chicken wings.
You can put whatever you want, and commission is negotiable. But we only listing what the seller is willing to pay the listing agent. And there's a checkbox in there that we will consider compensation for the buyer's agent as well. But there's no exact number in there. So they're going to have to come up with, when the buyer's agent comes in with an offer, they've got to bring their buyer broker agreement signed and what the buyer's willing to pay the buyer's agent in return of compensation. There's also another form with the listing agreement where you can ask the seller to pay some of the closing costs associated with paying the buyer's agent's commission. So that's where you'd ask for that in particular.
Okay. What are you seeing out there? Like, are sellers reluctant to offering the chicken wings?
Not really. I've got 6 listings signed right now, and every one of them is offering a compensation to a concession to the buyer at this point. So that's the good news. They get it. They understand it's not perfect, but it works. A lot of the buyers are coming in with a lower down payment. This could drastically affect what they can afford and potentially offer you on a price. I think a really good example of this, if someone comes in with 10% down and they have to pay their buyer agent commission to the buyer's agent, and that takes away, let's say it takes away 3% of their down payment. Now they're forced to come in at a lower purchase price as well. So not only it affects them with the percentage, but the percentage that their loan amount goes down as well. So we're estimating maybe that could cost the buyer like a purchasing power, maybe 8%. And you guys can do maybe the long-term effects of that. But that'd be my question to you. If it brings down a person with a low down payment, what does it do to the loan value for them? Does that really bring them down? Is that something we can present to the sellers too and show them data on that?
Yeah, it does. Well, if you go from a 90% loan to value, say 83, or I can do math, I swear I can, 87% LTV. Well, now your mortgage insurance is going to be slightly higher. Your interest rate's going to be slightly higher because of the LTV. So yeah, it has a long-term effect.
And Joel, that's in our county here where we have a lot of not just high balance, but actually jumbo loans. Jumbo loans, I think, most banks are going to say 25% these days. We got 10% deals that we can do, but still, when you get down to that slim margin now, you're getting to 93% or something like that. That's going to be an issue with some of these larger loans. And it's funny because, Lou, I think you have the same experience. Everybody's just trying to push to the maximum. I mean, I've got, we're some guys are like, we're at 55% debt to income ratio, right? We're trying to push it to 56 or whatever it is. So we're trying to get every single dollar out of their income to make that house work, because houses are so expensive these days. And that could put somebody over the edge on these things, especially with jumbo product, I think.
Well, let's get a little more extreme. What if they're FHA and they're coming in with 3.5% down, and now they have to pay 3% commission?
Yeah,
wouldn't work.
Now what? It's not going to work. Now you have to add a second loan to it, and that second loan, I mean, it's going to be $200 a month plus higher interest rate on the first. I mean, it's just because now you're at 100. You're pretty much at 100% loan to value. So now you're definitely paying a lot more, $500, $600 more, depending on the loan amount, on the purchase price. So it affects the buyer, especially, again, I go back to the underserved community, the 3% down, the 3.5%, the 5% down, those first time home buyers. Those are the ones that are going to be affected.
We got Alfred Yonan is asking, or actually commenting here, just says the biggest hurdle is to overcome the educational process and convince the average buyer to sign the buyer agency agreement. I think that's one of the hurdles, but I think, again, another hurdle is actually the mechanics of what happens. And they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think this lawsuit was a good intention in the beginning, and like, hey, let's not collude on this price and charge this guy $50,000 more on this house, right? So let's get rid of that stuff. But now, look, we're talking about, now we have to figure out how to get this buyer who is trying to edge in on this market that's already elevated as it is, and reduce their purchasing power.
That's so interesting. Educating the buyer, right? Because I think realtors do, and even us as lenders, we do a poor job of highlighting what we do, what we really do, how we help the buyer, the buyers, and I mean the listing. I mean on the listing side as well, the sellers. But it's muscle memory. We've been doing it for so long. It's just like walking and chewing gum at the same time, right? You just kind of do it. But there's a lot to it, and that needs to be highlighted because there's value in that.
Again, this goes back to the whole divorce thing. Don't just go to Zoom, legal Zoom, and grab your divorce papers and figure you're going to get, half the house. It's not going to work that way.
It's going to be an amicable divorce, okay? It's amicable. It's good. It's easy.
You can keep the silverware. I'll take half the table. So, whatever. Lauren, any comments on that, Lauren?
Well, I was just going to say what gets overlooked. And you were talking about, buyers agents and people saying, oh, they don't do much, blah, blah, blah. Well, in this area, it's a whole different ballgame. First of all, a buyer's agent does a lot. Okay. They're doing everything they can to protect their client and to protect everybody throughout the transaction. So they're doing at least as much paperwork, et cetera, and work as a listing agent, especially in this area, because you have to write so many offers for a buyer before they can actually get a home. It isn't usually like, our market is so hot here. It isn't like, oh, I'm just going to write an offer and get them in contract. No, you're going to write an offer. You're going to get beat out because there were 15 offers and they were, not 11 of them were all cash, and the highest one.
Wait, cash offers? No.
Yeah. The highest one was 300,000 over what your client was offering, right? So, I mean, it's just crazy here. So by the time you get your client into contract, you've possibly written multiple offers and shown them tons of houses. People don't, they don't even think about that part. So buyer's agents in this area work their fanny off. So it isn't that they're doing nothing. They've done a lot of work and haven't yet been even paid on the work that they've done. And they don't get paid unless their buyer ends up actually buying something and we get into contract and close escrow. So it's a lot more work than people let on, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Joel, your 6 listings now that are coming up, are the sellers agreeing to pay a portion of that commission back or no?
Yes. Yeah, they've all agreed to some compensation to the buyer's agent, and we thoroughly go through it. Luis and I actually got someone in the contract yesterday. We've been working on them for 2 months on this one home. Just to Lawrence's, what Lawrence is saying, it's really tough to get a buyer in the contract. It really is. It's not very easy. There's not a lot of homes for sale. We don't have a lot of inventory, and the buyers are very picky what they want. And when we get to the house that they really like, the sellers are negotiating. So it's a challenge just to get a buyer in the contract. But with this, with the paperwork that we filled out, I had to go to bat for my commission along with negotiating the price of the house. So we're going to see a lot more of that and the value added from the real estate agent side of what we do for them, to Lawrence's credit, what we're doing for them over that time frame. I think a lot of buyers, if they did not have a buyer's agent right now, they would be clueless on what to do. They'd freak out. They want a soundboard. They want to talk to people. This is the biggest purchase of their life. They want to be around people they can throw ideas out to, and they're not going to buy it the first property they see. So it'll take a little bit of time to get them into properties. Some of them may have to pay the buyer's agent's compensation. Some may be agreeable to, what the agent on the selling side is willing to offer. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting in the next few months here, what's going to happen.
It's a live lab experiment. I really like it.
Yeah, I agree.
Wild, Wild West. All right, excellent. You guys, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time, both Joel, Lawrence, and thank you, Luis, as well. And I think probably the best example I've had of this is we're going to Los Angeles. We're either going to take I-5 or we're going to take 101 down there. It doesn't really matter. We're still going to get there. We may just have to take a different freeway and a few different exits or whatever it is. Regardless, I think the game is still going to continue. And I think with interest rates coming down the way they're coming down, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the near future with this low inventory situation that we have here. And if interest rates come down a whole percentage, let's say, and we're actually doing 5.5% loans or whatever it is, that brings 5 million more people on the marketplace. And in this area, whereas Disneyland and home prices are already at $2 million median home price, what the heck's that going to mean? To all the newcomers here, it's going to be 1 million offers on a house.
It's 2019 all over. 2019, yeah.
COVID Renaissance.
Pre-COVID, yeah. There was these times where oh my God, it was crazy. Yeah, it has been crazy as far as the inventory. There's not enough inventory.
It's always a roller coaster.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, guys. Well, again, we're going to be Mark Messimer is going to join us next week. I think on Wednesday or Thursday. I'll let you guys know.
Mark who?
Mark Messimer. He is the president of the MLS out here in Santa Clara County. So he's got some insights into what's going on, and I'm hoping to get Carl Lee, who was the what was his position, Lawrence? Carl was the president of the SCORE. If I'm not, no, the CAR. He was on the CAR committee.
He was at one point.
Yeah, president of CAR. So I'd like to get his opinion as well. So he'll come on next week as well and join us. And Joel, you're always welcome, and Lawrence, you're always welcome. This is your own place. Call it home. I got lots more spots on the screen for anybody else who wants to join us. But This is a great conversation, and really, I thank you guys for your mindsets here and telling us what's up.
Sorry for my poor connection, but thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, any quick takeaways? Like, what do you recommend other agents? I'm sorry to kind of expand it a little, but Joel, any recommendations?
It's going to be the new normal, so just get used to it. We'll figure it out. We've always figured it out. Don't be negative about it. It's what it is. The rest of the United States dealing with it too. We'll get through it. Homes are still going to sell.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. Lawrence, any takeaways for you? Any big deals?
Just wanted to say one thing. Mark Messimer is the Director of Professional Development for MLS Listings, Inc.
Nice.
Not president.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to inflate titles, you know. I used to know a guy whose title was Chief of All Things of Importance. He was a novella.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. All right. Nikki, thank you also. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate that. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you,
you, guys.
everybody.
Appreciate it.
Just let it slip. Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy.